So I was just watching a video by this YouTuber named Bloody Bizkit, and he brought up some arguments about Kingdom Hearts 3 that I found frustrating. Um, I like Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't think it's perfect. I think it can be improved. I think that there's more to people who come from the 2FM perspective than just they want to make it more like, or they just want another Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, right? I don't think that's all they're saying there. I think it would be incredibly unfair to say that that's all they're saying, right? That makes no sense. So I totally agree with the thesis of BB's video, that this isn't just everything they're saying. He brings up three main points, right? So he mostly talks about action. So he talks about how there is a notable lack of diversity within Keyblade transformations, right? That, for example, the differences between the Corona Keyblade and the claws that you get in Monsters Inc. aren't as genuinely different as you would think. And I think there's some truth to that, right? Like, I think there definitely could have been more mechanical differences. For me, I liked a lot of how the mage build, or whatever you want to call it, felt different, right? Like, I was more prone to using magic. I would clone myself and fire at enemies. I liked the AoE attacks. The finisher isn't super strong, but I liked the differences between that and, for example, the striker form that you get from the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Highwind Keyblade, or whatever it's called. I liked those two in different ways and played them differently, right? Like, when I played each of those Keyblades, I had a different gameplay experience. Was it wildly different? Was I not mashing X? No, I wasn't. Or I was mashing X. But it's Kingdom Hearts, right? Like, I don't expect for me to suddenly be pressing square, pressing triangle, like, all the time, right? Like, every now and then I press triangle to get the Keyblade transformation, I'll press triangle to get the finisher, maybe I'll press square to get some clones with the mage, but, like, by and large, yeah, I'm pressing X, and, like, that's just what I expect from a Kingdom Hearts game, right? Of course, you can go beyond the X button, right? There's that great YouTube video on that subject that I'll link, but it's frustrating to me because I do feel like there are genuine differences. I got a lot of, and that doesn't mean that Baby's wrong to feel otherwise, right? It doesn't mean other people are wrong to feel like they didn't get a lot out of the different mechanics of Kingdom Hearts. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. You don't have to enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3, to be exact. I think Kingdom Hearts 2, I wish more of that game had gone into Kingdom Hearts 3, right? So I fundamentally agree with BB and other people like him, other 2FM critics of KH3, that there could have been more 2FM in this game, and that when they did the patch, they did a big, like, 2FM patch, basically, right? I think that that's what they should have had to begin with, but I'm glad it was there, and I'm glad that most of that upgrade was free. I think that's great, too. And I think that upgrade to the base game makes a lot of these complaints hit less for me, right? Like, I would defend KH3 either way, don't get me wrong, but especially with the patch, which he talks about and praises briefly, I think that KH3's gameplay is diverse enough with all the different Keyblades. Now, I think that there is some overlap. Some of the Keyblades, like the one you get from Arendelle, is very similar to the Monsters Inc. one. I think it's only when you transform it again that it becomes its own thing. And even then, it's just like kind of a faster, looser version of the Monster Claws. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a little bit since I've used the Arendelle Keyblade. So I feel like they do have a good amount of diversity. For me, anyway, for my gameplay, I loved the Highwind. I loved using the Corona transformation Keyblade. I loved using Second Form, and of course, the Olympus Keyblade was very good as well. I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember all the names off the top of my head. His other complaint was that a lot of the reaction commands are random, right? So like when you press triangle, you might get anything. You might get a Firaga, you might get a Blizzaga, you might get a Thundaga. What you might get attractions, you might get this, you might get that. There's not as much player choice as there is in KH2FM, and I think that's totally fair to point out, right? Like I think that's just pretty objectively true. I think that there is definitely less player choice. And we saw this in 0.2, right, with Aqua when she had when Grand Magic was first introduced, and they would stack on each other, but it wouldn't always link up to what you were playing, so it felt a little disjointed, right? I totally think that's fair, but it never bothered me, at least not in KH3. I haven't played 0.2 in a long time, but in KH3 it didn't bother me, and here's why. It didn't bother me because there are so many options in KH3. There are so many different things that you can use: attraction commands, links, the Keyblade transformations, things like second form. You have so many varying options that are good and solid against large groups of enemies, which is largely what you're going for in that game. And I understand some people don't like that. That's fine. I also have, can understand that. But like, I think that the game gives you a lot of different tools. Like here's the thing. If you were a painter or a builder or whatever, right, and you were working on a complicated house and only had a few tools, but each of those tools were solid, or you were working on a slightly simpler house and had a lot of tools but couldn't control which ones you got, but they were all pretty effective. I think both of those are great scenarios, right, for the person. I know this is a clumsy metaphor, but it's the one I've come up with. I think these are both decent scenarios for the person in this context, right? Like, I think KH3 gives you a lot of tools to deal with any given fight. And yeah, you play the game for almost 30 hours. It's at some point it might get a little repetitive. For me, it didn't. I played the game 3 times. Once on Prob, once on Critical, and I think another time on Critical, I think. But in any case, I've played the game a lot, right? Like, I've played the game like probably around 100 hours. So I've done a lot, and that's not even including the DLC, right? I've spent hundreds of hours on those fights and with the new base combos that are terrific. And I think we pretty much all KH fans agree on that, like BB said. So yeah, I agree that in summary with this one, I agree that KH2FM is better in this way because it gives the player more agency and more choice, and I agree that's a superior choice to the random things with KH3. But because KH3 is a slightly easier game, it's more focused on groups of enemies, and because you have so many different interesting tools, at least to me they're interesting, I think it works great, right? Like, I think it could be better, but I think it works great for what it is. The last point was about janky combos, floaty combos, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, definitely that could be a problem at times. He used the example of the Hyper Hammer, which to me that was weird because the point of the Hyper Hammer is that it does a lot of damage but has a big windup. So to me that just screams like, okay, you shouldn't be going for one enemy. Like, you should not be doing a one-on-one with the Hyper Hammer, right? The Hyper Hammer is supposed to slam down on the floor and hit a whole bunch of enemies, right? That's my interpretation. Again, I haven't played in a while, and I didn't use Hyper Hammer that much because it didn't interest me. I do like the drill, though. I think the drill is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I tried it a little bit. I've used it here or there, but it's tough to get those combos off on some of the Keyblades. I mean, I agree. There's been some times with the Monsters Inc. Keyblade that I will be in good position. Sometimes, though, the hitboxes are generous. Other times, they're not so generous. I think this is another thing that KH3 could improve on. But I also don't think it's so bad that it makes the action suffer from it. Not in any serious way, right? When KH3 came out, it was a 4 out of 5 for me. With the base game improved and with the DLC, I mean, I think the overall package is almost as good as KH2FM. And I know not everyone is going to agree with me, and that's totally fine. But I really think it's about as good as KH2FM at this point. With the, if you want to talk base KH3, there are more criticisms to be had there. I'll probably sympathize with them. I love KH2FM. I've speedran that game. I have played it many, many times. Played it when I was a kid. I played it on Critical a whole bunch of times. I never level 1'd it. So maybe I'm a fake ass gamer, but I just think that there are better arguments that Baby could have provided from the KH3 side. And so this is my attempt at giving that side, because I don't think all KH3 people are being like, listen, kiddo, you just want KH2. Like, I feel like he's giving the weakest arguments possible that he's seen online. Like, he's just giving some bad internet takes that he's seen on Twitter. And I'm sure they're out there. I'm not arguing that sorry about the noise. I'm not arguing that the KH3, people have defended KH3, right? I'm not arguing that there are some people out there who are not great in their arguments, right? They're definitely out there. But what I am saying is that there are better arguments, and I hope that this short video has provided at least a couple of those arguments. There was a beginning section where Baby was talking about some other stuff, but I mostly just wanted to address the slides. I think KH3 is a great game. It saddens me that some people can't enjoy it, but that's how, that's video games, baby. Like, you gotta embrace that some people aren't gonna like your new faves. And yeah, KH3 was definitely my go-to for when it came out. Mostly because of sentimental value, and I'm not gonna say because of the combat. But anyway, I don't think anyone's gonna watch this, but I'm sorry, there's noise in the background now. But yeah, I could have done this scripted, but I was just feeling agitated about this video, and I just wanted to get something out there. Maybe I'll do something more scripted later on, and I'll delete this video. But anyway, if you're watching this, what a fucking nerd. Bye.